Alrighty, here we go with the latest on Snow Talk and several things to talk about, of course. I likely will start doing some more of the Facebook Live hits coming up, likely tomorrow. I want to go a little closer to the event so I can start asking some specific questions on travel, as I know you guys are going to have questions on that. So starting tomorrow, look for those posts to start hitting on Facebook. So make sure to like the pages there on Facebook so you get those notifications when we go live. Alright, so let's start with the stats there, 1.4. That's where we should be for this time of the year. Not a shocker that we're running behind. But I thought we'd start with most people know this, but just to kind of clarify, the criteria for a white Christmas. This is an untold rule. It's not something that officially is in the National Weather Service rule book as this has to be this way. This is just a general rule that meteorologists have said, especially with Weather Service offices. And we go by the 1 inch of snow on the ground. It doesn't mean it has fallen that day. It could be leftover snow. All right, it's got to be at least 1 inch on the ground when they do the measurement at Louisville International at 7 a.m. Christmas morning. So, when's the last time we had that? Wasn't that long ago, believe it or not, 2010. So within this decade, we've had a white Christmas. That was a very snowy month, by the way. Not a big snow month, but it was very cold and constant half-inch, 1 inch snows that took place, and a lot of travel problems too in December 2010. The last, or the most we've ever had that's fallen on the date of Christmas, a long time ago, 4.5 inches in 1890. It's surprising to me. But the most we've had on the ground from a previous snow, which was only hours before we got to that measurement point, was, of course, what everybody remembers is 2004, when we had 5 inches. So we're due for one, I think. And I'd love to get one that would be the most fallen since 1890. Wouldn't that be nice? Don't really see that happening as it looks now, just to clarify. Here's a look at the cloud cover over the area. Once again, lots of clouds. And some fog in spots, especially southern Kentucky. The thing is, we've got a lot of warm air being funneled into the area, good south flow. Fog is very widespread across many sections of the southeast corner of the country. And we usually have noted this when you see a lot of dense fog from one end of the Gulf of Mexico to the other, all the way up through portions of the Ohio Valley and Tennessee valleys. It's often preceded with the Arctic outbreaks that happen in the lower 48 because the ground's relatively chilled from some cold air previously, and then you got a lot of warmth and moisture flowing in. It's because the dynamic setup, the pattern, the jet is reacting to what's happening downstream, and the end result is you get all this changeable warmth coming our way. And it's interesting to see that happening again for the eastern United States. So at least we're getting a good signal from the weather already that a change is coming in the form of an Arctic blast. And here's some of that moisture across the deep south. Certainly over Texas, that's an area of low pressure moving our way for tomorrow. Now, this one's not going to be a major setup, but there's still some minor details that bother me on it that I want to cover. Here's the RPM. Overall, it's a southern tracker. Now, first off, RPM's got rain in here this afternoon. Don't see that happening, although we're not overly dry in the atmosphere. We're fairly saturated, in fact, in spots. So it's possible that, but I think it's reading that more sprinkles than an actual shower breaking out. Even it looks weird on the animation of it, like it's kind of a false echo. Most of this rain for the southern system out of Texas is tomorrow, and most of it hugs across southern part of Kentucky. But look at the wind arrow. Today it's a south-southwest arrow. Tomorrow it's a northeast arrow, so we actually get colder during the day instead of warmer. And that is interesting considering we have moisture moving in. Now, RPM and some of the other models keep all the moisture packed down to the south and southern Kentucky and don't want to move it north. And that's important because if it did sneak any further north than what it is, it would begin to show a little bit more of a frozen signal to it. Now, the NAM model is wanting to do just that. It's hinting that the moisture field will actually get all the way out. Now, the new NAM is running right now, so if it shows something different than what I have here now, I'll let you know on social media and, of course, on midday coming up. But it does bring us into the moisture field about I-64, that northeast wind, and there's enough cold air aloft. That's so much cold air at the ground level. We do drop a few degrees at the ground level, but aloft, we get just barely there to that point where some of that could mix in with some snow on the northern fringes of that. Now, it may be more toward the bluegrass area of Kentucky, I-75, the Big Sandy area of Kentucky, not so much within wave country. That certainly is possible. That would make sense. But I wouldn't roll it out for Oldham County. Franklin, Shelby, maybe even Jefferson, but more so Frankfort and Lexington could see some snowflakes mixed in with that. It's not going to be a big setup, but at least want to mention that because even though we're talking about a warmer day today, it is going to be a chilly, nasty rain where it does fall tomorrow. So, and everybody will get it. It's mainly going to be 64 south is the general rule tomorrow, though I wouldn't rule out something north of 64 for an hour or two. All right, so that's enough of that minor system. Let's talk about Friday. Strong low pressure moves in, good south flow. Here we go with the 60s moving into the area. The record, by the way, I looked it up, 70 degrees was the record high in 2013 for Friday. Right now we've got 62 in, and if the rain were to hold off later than what is expected, that may be plausible. Right now we're thinking the rain will arrive enough time to prevent that from being an issue. But rain, maybe some thunderstorms. Well, I don't see much of the severe weather side, but I'll show you why in a second. But here comes the cold weather on the backside, trying to catch up with it. Maybe a brief changeover before it ends early on Saturday morning. The deeper moisture here on the dew points for Friday, again, you can't get severe weather with 50-degree dew points this time of year, don't get me wrong, but when we see 60 or higher, that's the better potential for anything severe to at least be even a little more probable, and this is where you would likely see a marginal risk come out from the SPC. They're not out looking yet, but if they were to draw it, I have a feeling they would draw it in that gray-blue area is where they would start. But we'll monitor that because it's only Tuesday. All right, so now let's look at what I did yesterday here. Again, this is the Euro model. Here is the rain snow line aloft, and here is the freezing line at the ground when you start in the pink shaded area. And there are two different layers here, so that's important to point out. Notice how, as we head into Thursday, how it's cold at the surface, but not as cold aloft there. All right, so here we go. Let's roll it forward here. The rain and thunder on the Euro on Friday afternoon, evening. Shows some heavy rain potentially across the area here. We'll have to watch that. Here comes the cold air aloft. Notice the cold air at the surface is lagging behind it. That's normally the case. Even as we did early Saturday, it shows the cold air aloft getting to the front, but doesn't exactly catch it all the way like GFS will, as you'll see. And then the cold air at the surface really lags behind it. But then the cold air does work its way in, and it's right on the edge of the surface cold, of the Arctic shield, where this jet streak, this energy is going to allow for lift, and we get your snow showers developing. But notice that they're developing right along the edge of the Arctic shield at the surface there for that freezing area. And that sets the stage for snow showers for Christmas Eve night into the Christmas morning. Sounds like a storybook, doesn't it, to even say that? I mean, I can't even imagine times I've ever had to say that before. It's going to snow Christmas Eve, you know. But it's kind of nice to see that, at least, and it's showing an accumulating snow out of that. I'm not going to talk about amounts, but just saying it shows some accumulating snow. And then off of that snow showers into Christmas afternoon. What a very festive look there. And then the coldest period looks to be Tuesday, Wednesday. And then, in a classic fashion, as we try to pull out of the Arctic air mass, here comes another system. And this looks like a classic overrunning deal. So, as usually the case, the models are too aggressive for the warmth. I think the rain snow line aloft certainly may be north of us, but I think the freezing line at the ground level may be a little more to the south. And I think this is going to be a snow to potentially freezing rain deal before we get to New Year's Eve. That needs to be watched. Here's the GFS. Again, let's get into Friday. Here comes the rain and thunder. Get a little more south in the GFS. On the instability part, notice it does bring in the cold air aloft to match the back into the front, so a brief changeover is possible. And then as we head into Saturday and Sunday, here we go, Christmas Eve. Here comes the jet streak with that snowfall. It's a very similar idea to the Euro, just not as much coverage, but I mean, they're not that far off. To be operational models, they're not that far off, guys. They really aren't. This is not an overly heavy snow look. It is trying to merge and face more over the mid-Atlantic. We still need to watch it, because if this does get a little more organized and slow down, there could be a little more enhanced snowfall. But the signs are there. This may be pretty fast. That may limit any amount of snowfall. But it doesn't really matter for those of you that love just even a chance for snow. At the moment, most models show snow at least falling from the sky around Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. That's a plus to start with there. And then it wraps up with the coldest area again, being around Tuesday, Wednesday. Could we get down to about single digits or zero? It would depend on if we get snow on the ground. If we do, we need to watch that. It's going to get frigid. If we don't, I think lower teens, maybe some upper single digits. And then, just like the Euro, GFS shows the classic overrunning event, 28th and 29th. Again, snow to begin with, and then it may go to freeze and rain. This worries me about looking at this, and it's always too aggressive with the warmth, but it bears watching. And real quick, the analogs did show, by the way, for this setup from the GFS, even the ensembles, that past has told us that there's at least been a chance for some snow to reach the ground along the Ohio River Valley. So snowboard, I'll keep that snow chance in there, mainly for the Monday one. I'll show that, and then I'll show the snow to freeze and rain potential 28th and 29th. There's a lot going on, guys, so let's see how this plays out. We're getting closer and closer to getting the answers we need Stay tuned. We'll have those answers ready for you very, very soon.